Hello, and welcome to Culture Conversations, the podcast where we explore the people side of work. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. For years, I've found myself deep in discussions about workplace engagement with industry experts. Now I get to share this wisdom with all leaders, new and experienced, on their journeys to build cultures that maximize potential. We spend so much of our lives at work. Let's make it a place where our teams can grow and succeed.
Right.
So right. Hello, I am excited to have Mansa Latham here today to talk about faith in the workplace. Mansa Latham is a strategic HR thought leader and founder of Amenity HR, a consulting firm helping small to medium-sized businesses and nonprofits attract and retain the talent they need to accomplish their business priorities faster. Mansa's background began in real estate banking before transitioning into strategic HR resources, where he gained experience working for organizations including Intel, Poshmark, and Tesla. Mansa is passionate about community building and a member of the Lions Club International and Rotary International. He also is a board member for Community Support Services, CSS, which is a nonprofit supporting member of the neurodiverse community and their families. Mansa Latham is from Aurora, where faith, family, and fellowship fill all of his free time. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mansa. I am so excited to dive into potentially controversial topics, something that definitely has a lot of discomfort for organizations and is so not discussed often. So I do want to kick it off because beforehand we were chatting about faith-based organizations and what that means. And you did say that you are a faith-based organization. So what exactly does that mean?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, Megan, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It's truly my blessing. But when I speak about, Amenity HR being a faith-based consulting firm, essentially what I try to do is just help small, medium-sized businesses, nonprofits bring faith into the workplace. And what I mean by faith into the workplace, how I describe that is God's language is love, faith, and hope. And so if I can bring those types of values into an organization to develop their leaders and to help them accomplish their business goals and priorities, it warms my heart. I know that their employees are more engaged. And I know I've seen it myself, organizations are able to reach their goals faster than organizations that don't add those types of values into their business.
So for you, the faith-based integration really comes into honing faith-based values into an organization and leaning into those.
Yes, absolutely. So, the challenge for leaders is knowledge, wisdom, and discernment, right? To take in knowledge, put aside the trivia, find the logic. And then once you're able to find that logic and God sees that in you, then he begins to give you those crumbs of wisdom, right? Once he gives you those crumbs of wisdom, then it's your opportunity to discern those things that serve you, discern those things that serve your people, and then set aside those things that do not serve you, do not serve your people, so that you and your teams can best serve the success of your organization.
I love that. I love that connection because I do find organized relation has such strong values and community, and there's so many benefits for that. But when I hear about integrating God or some of those more specific language into organizations, how do you do that effectively without kind of turning away some people that are uncomfortable or not of the same faith or religion, while still being able to celebrate those important values?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I love, you said that, it's kind of a controversial topic. I don't necessarily see it as controversial, right? So first and foremost, religion is a protected class, right? Which basically means that all employees have the right to request reasonable accommodations pertaining to their religious background. And that's important because 77% of Americans identify their religious beliefs as a fundamental foundation of their personality, of their identity. And so that's why it's really important for me to help individuals be able to connect their personal lives to their professional lives so they can just truly be themselves wherever they go and feel as though they're in a safe space. But in addition to that, about 59 out of the top Fortune 100 companies have a faith-based employee resource group within their organization. And so when you ask the question of how can organizations add more faith into their workplace culture, that's exactly the way. To focus on employee resource groups, ERGs, and for those that aren't familiar with what an employee resource group is, essentially there's going to be informal or formal groups of employees meeting together at work, connected based off of one thing in common. And for a faith-based employee resource group, that thing would just be their faith.
So it sounds like the employee resource group is where you're starting to combine what the organization can do to support its employees with their faith in an appropriate way, but also, and this is kind of one of those finger pointing exercise, right? Is it the employer that is responsible to bring their faith into the organization because they are a protected class, because they can celebrate and I'll say authentically be themselves with bringing
Sure.
that? Or is it oftentimes the employer themselves that is more faith-based and bringing more of that language or values to the company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And when it comes to faith and religion for most companies, I think that it's not necessarily that employers don't want to implement faith into the workplace, into their cultures, into their values, but it's just out of sight, out of mind. Some just don't really consider it. But in terms of the opportunity to take advantage of adding it to an organization, I think you can metaphorically burn the candle at both ends. And what I mean by that is if you are an employee that says, yeah, that's a good idea. I'd actually would love to be able to, bring my faith to work and connect with people based off of that. That's going to give me a better opportunity to perhaps find like-minded individuals within my organization so that I can perhaps connect with them outside of my organization, right? Now, in terms of work-life balance, that's the epitome of work-life balance. And so, based off of that inspiration, they may want to go to their HR department and say, hey, can you support me in implementing an employee resource group? And again, that goes back to reasonable accommodations. And HR department would have to take them into consideration and then give some options for what they see as reasonably accommodating. But on the other end, with a lot of the layoffs that are going on right now, organizations are trying to do more with less. They're still trying to maintain their culture. And so a lot of organizations are trying to think outside of the box in terms of how can we best continue to engage our people during these turbulent times. And a lot of employers are turning to implementing ERGs, specifically faith-based ERGs, into their organization. And so what I like to do is come in and help employers navigate and even employees navigate how exactly they may be able to implement a faith-based ERG into their organization. How do we bring this to legal and get approval? How do we set up, an actual program or initiative? And even more than that, how do we maintain it? A common pitfall with a lot of ERGs, not just faith-based ERGs, is that it's usually led by one very passionate employee. And so, but what happens if that employee leaves the organization, right? So then, then the entire employee resource group may go with them. And so I also like to help organizations maintain the efforts that the individuals are making.
I love that support and that really, I don't want to say easy because nothing about that is easy, but comfortable way that you can integrate
Sure.
that and how it does affect work-life balance and how it does help blend those worlds and allow people to feel more like themselves and bring more of themselves. Because as you mentioned, there's a lot of very powerful values in communities that really come out of that. And I love the candle at both ends. When it comes to the organization style and thinking more as business leaders, business owners, what are some of the mistakes you see organizations making when they start bringing faith into the workplace, when they do have some of those strong?
Sure. Yeah, and that's a great question. And so, again, I'll take a step back from specifically faith because, with any program or initiative that an organization comes out with. I've been in organizations where they've had a ton of really awesome programs, but the employees didn't know about them, right? And they didn't really so if you don't know about it, it's truly out of sight, out of mind, and so then you can't participate in it. And so when you adopt something like a faith-based ERG, it's truly important to get the buy-in from the employer so that it can then be recognized by the employer and made official, because that way, then employees who, again, generally are running these employee resource groups, they're able to use the company's resources like email, Slack, calendar invitations to actually promote the employee resource group so people know that it exists so they can then take advantage of it, because it's truly nothing worse than having a treasure that no one has a map to. And so then no one can participate in it. So getting that buy-in from the HR department, from the powers that be within your organization is crucial for any program or initiative to have that stability to last over time. And again, that's the type of, from a consulting standpoint, value I like to add to an organization, how to navigate that path, avoid pitfalls, so that we can sustain something great for your employees over time.
I definitely hear the pitfall of having the treasure without the map, which is
Yes.
fabulous. And I'm thinking specifically of some examples that I've had clients talk about, or experiences that they've noticed, and something like praying at work, or
Mm-hmm.
is that like a big HR no? Is that ways that you can comfortably integrate? What does that look like as they're bringing faith into the workplace?
Sure. Well, the beautiful thing about any employee resource group run by employees is that for the most part, you can make of it what you want to make of it. And so, yes, prayer requests is very common with a faith-based employee resource group. Just going back to those three values, right? God's language, love, hope, and faith, right? Just to explain what I mean when I say that, love is just leading with love with everyone that you meet, everything that you do, to show the best version of yourself. And then you have faith, which is, a belief in God. And that's relatively easier because you can look around the world, like someone had to have put all of this here, right? So, there must be some higher power there, right? So faith is generally easy, but then there's that hope part. And hope is a belief in that which you can see, but that you hope to be able to see again, right? And so, that's where that prayer comes into place, where now you're able to get together with like-minded individuals, let them know what your challenges are, what you hope to see in the future, what your innermost desires are. And then so now you all have a mindset towards altruistically allowing that to happen for everyone a part of that group. So you're really putting your minds together in order to manifest your thoughts and your desires. And so in addition to truly taking those values that I mentioned and implementing them into a business, into your organization, you also are engaging in fellowship with one another. You're engaging in breaking bread, right? Where you're able to speak about scripture, perhaps. That might be another activity. You're able to really speak about, based off of our faith, how can we really how can I implement this into the work that I do every day? And then third, that prayer, right? Which is that acknowledgement to God that, yeah, I see you. I saw what you did for me that other day. I was drowning in work, but you had my coworker come to me and say, hey, I don't have anything to do. Can I help you? And then they were able to help me get some work done sooner. And so, you're thanking God that person, that angel, right, that showed up to help you get through your workday. And then, back to more traditional employee engagement strategies. Now, when you have your next team meeting, you can, or in the Slack channel, you can then recognize that person for what they did. And generally speaking, recognition from a peer, employee to employee, is more impactful to an individual than recognition from a manager down to an employee. So there's a lot of different ways that you can add engagement to your organization. Faith-based employee resource groups is just one amazing way to do it.
I was going to say, so it sounds like when you are integrating, and I was just speaking about gratitude and that leadership mindset. And so we we're talking about that recognition and how powerful it is. And I definitely see that strong connection between religion and and that gratitude and prayer and how that connects. It feels like a lot of what we've talked about today is the employer resource group specifically. Is
Mhm.
there places outside? So that's kind of that, I'll say, safe space. And I love what you said
Sure.
before is everywhere you go is a safe
Yes,
space.
absolutely. Let's talk about it.
I love it. So outside of that, we'll say designated time,
Mhm.
protected space. How does it kind of creep into the day-to-day of business
Sure.
operations or another?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I created a formula for myself with how an individual can manifest power. And what that formula looks like to me is intention plus purpose equaling power. And so, how it shows up on a day to day basis is through the intention, right? How are you showing up? How are you using your energy on a day to day basis in order to get things done? And then, but what they say is that, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So you also need that purpose part of it in terms of why am I showing up this way with my intention? What am I actually trying to accomplish? And once you can really identify that with yourself for yourself, then that gets you to that power where now you're cooking with fire, right? So that's what I do a lot of when I am able to consult with an organization, working with their business leaders to help them find their intention. But more importantly than that, help them find their purpose so they understand what they're doing, they understand why they're doing it, and they understand how they're going to do it so that each and every day they can show up as the best version of themselves and get things accomplished.
So it sounds like a lot of I mean, again, you're going into very strong leadership fundamental, organizational, cultural fundamentals, values, vision, mission, right? The core of
Sure,
what great
absolutely.
organizations really understand when you're in that ERG space, when you are with people of a similar background or faith, you're a little bit more open, I'll say, to talk about it
Hmm.
from that religious context, as opposed to other business meetings where you're maybe not bringing in the religious aspect of it, but you're still using those fundamentals, which are only strengthened because you've been able to have those open dialogues with people, because you're able to get that much closer as part of the process as a protected class.
Sure. No, I mean, that's a great call out. And I think a lot of organizations, if there is any obstacle to why they may want to implement something like a faith-based ERG into their organization and bring in some of these faith-based values, is that they don't want to usurp the mission and the values that they already have as an organization. But truly, I believe that, by applying these faith-based values, you're only enhancing and strengthening the values that you have within your organization so that it truly is kind of a 360 coming full circle effort, right? Again, adding that intention in terms of, okay, how do we want to make sure, what's behind our mission statement? What is behind our company values? Making sure that we are on the same page with that. How are we showing up to work every day? And then, what are we here to accomplish, right? Again, that purpose, the purpose for the organization, everything that we do within the organization, we definitely want to make sure it's to the benefit of the organization. And so we want to make sure that we're showing up best version of ourselves in a safe space where we can come to work as ourselves to do what we want to do every day to make the business as successful as the business is able to become.
I love that. And so you are a faith-based organization. And so you are
Yes.
bringing those values. Do you find that that tends to attract certain clientele or distance yourself from others?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, right? You either are following God's law or you're opting out of God's law, right? And so, if you are following God's law, then you're definitely an individual that I want to work with. And I'm sure that what I'm saying to you, you see as truth, and it's speaking to your soul. And if it's not, then more than likely, even if we were to connect and have a 30-minute intro call about how we may be able to work together, more likely than not, we would probably say it might not be a good fit. And so going back to intention, just being intentional about energy, you should be here to find your tribe, find your like-minded individuals so you can build together and not necessarily stumble by utilizing your energy, putting it into something that does not appreciate it. right? Even in the Bible, God says, do not give wisdom to pigs, right? They'll trample all over it. And so at the end of the day, it's just about finding people that are like-minded so that you can do great things together.
And I love how open and upfront you are with that. And I think that's a great model for other organizations to have when they are more of a faith-based organization, to have the confidence to understand that not everyone is part of their tribe. Not everyone is going to be attracted to those values and to that approach, but still staying authentic to the organization of this is what we practice. This is part of our values. This is part of the fabric of our culture. Whether or not that's a good fit for you, you have to make that decision yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a talent acquisition, right? A talent acquisition and recruiting methodology. That first interview conversation you're going to have is a culture screening, right, with the HR department. And if you are working for a savvy organization that is trying to do the best for their employee culture and the best for the business's success, even if you had a world-class talent, the best subject matter expert in the entire universe, but they're not a good culture fit, why would you shoot yourself in the foot by bringing that talent into your organization, right? So truly it is about being intentional, and it's truly getting back to the purpose of the why are we making the decisions that we are making. And that should always be to best serve your people and to best serve the future success of your organization.
Beautiful. Is there any other parting wisdom or words that you'd like to share with us? I mean, we dove deep on that, but it's such a uncomfortable topic for many, I think, and you've been really just brilliant at breaking it down, making it accessible, understanding how we can do it right, I'll say, how we can do it authentically, and continue, of course, to serve our teams and our companies in the most powerful way possible.
Yes. Yeah, I know it seems taboo, but our 59 of our Fortune 100 companies already have a faith-based employee resource group. So I'm really pleased to be able to share with you all that it is our most innovative organizations leading the charge here. And one thing that some individuals need is support to be courageous. Support to be righteous, right? To say, this is what I want, and I'm just going to try to work hard in order to bring this to my organization, because I can see the vision of how it's going to benefit me, benefit my heart, benefit my people. And so again, we're able to live our lives with purpose, but we're able to come to work with purpose. And so if you need any other support, please reach out to me. You can find me at Amenity.HR, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Mansa Latham.
Fabulous, Mansa. Thank you so much for this incredible conversation. We will have those links in the show notes for anyone that does want to reach out and connect and learn more about how to bring these important values and resources to your organization and teams so that you're able to thrive. Thank you so much and have a lovely day. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Culture Conversations. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, founder of eLeader Experience, a professional leadership development company. Today, we shared actionable ideas to navigate the evolving workplace landscape, compete for talent, and build cultures that maximize potential. If you're looking to learn more about how to support your organization's leaders, you can learn more about our work at eleaderexperience.com. Now get out there and contribute positively to your organization's culture with your own conversations.